They didn't fire her quietly. They projected her name onto the conference room screen, right under the words "Security Breach, Responsible Party." 40 people stared. Her manager didn't look at her once. And that's when she realized she was being sacrificed. The room smelled like burnt coffee and panic. Phones were face down. HR sat near the door. The CEO stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw tight. Someone accessed restricted files, he said. And someone forwarded them outside the company. A pause. Then her manager, Mark, cleared his throat. All activity traces back to one employee, he said, tapping the remote. Her inbox appeared on the screen. Highlighted. Annotated. Framed. A murmur rolled through the room. She felt heat crawl up her neck. That's not. Mark raised a hand. Please don't interrupt. The humiliation wasn't loud. It was quiet. Surgical. Slides flipped. Time stamps. Emails she recognized, but not the way they were shown. Care to explain? The CEO asked, finally looking at her. She stood slowly, legs unsteady. Every face felt like a verdict. Those files were part of a task Mark assigned me. I didn't send anything outside the company. Mark sighed. The kind of sigh meant to sound disappointed. I warned you about protocol. That's when something clicked. He wasn't confused. He wasn't surprised. He was prepared. The HR director leaned forward. Are you denying responsibility? Her mouth opened. Closed. If she said yes, she looked defensive. If she said no, she was finished. I followed instructions, she said carefully. Every access I had was approved. Mark finally looked at her then. Just for a second. And smiled. Not cruel. Relieved. As your manager, he said, I take accountability for oversight. But the actions were hers. Silence. The CEO nodded once. We can't afford this kind of risk. Her badge was already on the table. She hadn't noticed when HR placed it there. This is effective immediately, the CEO said. We'll escort you out. Just like that. No investigation. No discussion. No chance. As she stood, eyes burning, she caught something strange on the screen behind her, an email timestamp that didn't make sense. A forwarded message logged after she'd left the office that day. She turned to point it out. But Mark was already shaking hands with the CEO. And that's when she understood the truth. This wasn't a mistake. This was a decision. And whatever she had just taken the fall for was still happening. They walked her out like she was contagious. HR stayed close but didn't touch her. Mark followed a few steps behind, speaking softly to the CEO, already moving on. The office kept working. Phones rang. Printers hummed. No one looked up. By the time the elevator doors closed, her hands were shaking. Sign this, the HR director said, holding out a tablet. Standard termination acknowledgement. She scanned it through blurred vision. Confidentiality clause. Non-disclosure. Immediate surrender of all access. And my personal files, she asked. Photos, notes. They've been wiped, HR replied, flat and practiced. The elevator dinged. That's when Mark finally stepped forward. I'm sorry it had to happen like this, he said, voice low, as if they were sharing a secret. She stared at him. You set me up. He frowned slightly. That's not fair. You assigned me the files. You told me to move them. He leaned in just enough for HR not to hear. You should have known better than to trust anyone with access like that. The doors opened. Security was waiting. Outside, the cold air hit her like a slap. Her badge was dropped into a locked box. The building she'd given 5 years to reflected back at her, clean, untouchable. Her phone buzzed. A message from Evan, her coworker. "Did you know Mark's been meeting with legal all week?" Her chest tightened. She typed back with trembling thumbs. "About what?" 3 dots. Then nothing. A car passed. Life moved on. She checked her email from her personal account, one she hadn't used in months. Buried in spam was a notification from the company server. Forwarding rule updated. Timestamp, 11:42 p.m. Last night. She'd left at 6. Her stomach dropped. She opened the details. A rule had been added to her work inbox, forwarding specific files to an external address. An address she didn't recognize. But the authorization came from an admin-level account. Mark's. Her hands went cold. This wasn't just about blaming her. This was about using her access as cover. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Delete the email," Mark said calmly. "For your own good." Her breath caught. "You did this." "You're already gone," he replied. "Dragging this out won't help you." "You forwarded the files." A pause. Then, "Be careful." The line went dead. She stood there, shaking, realization settling like a weight. Mark hadn't just betrayed her. He was still inside the company. Still moving data. Still protected. And she was the firewall they'd burned to hide it. Across the street, the building lights glowed on, business as usual. Except now she knew something no one else did. And the question wasn't whether she'd been framed. It was whether anyone would believe her. Before Mark finished what he started. No one replied to her emails. Not legal. Not HR. Not the compliance hotline that promised confidentiality. By morning, her company account was dead. Her LinkedIn showed her role quietly removed, like she'd never existed. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, coffee untouched, replaying the meeting in her head. The timestamps. Mark's calm. The way everyone had already decided. This wasn't panic. It was choreography. She pulled out her old notebook, the one she used before everything went digital. Inside were handwritten task lists. Dates. Initials. Mark's initials. She cross-checked them against the access logs she'd saved on her phone before security took it offline. One pattern stood out. Every sensitive task he'd assigned her happened on days he left early. At first, she thought coincidence. Then she found the message Evan never finished sending. It arrived from an encrypted app she didn't recognize. "He's not new at this." Her pulse jumped. Another message followed. "2 people before you. Both gone. Both blamed." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Why are you helping me?" The reply took longer. "Because I was told to delete something last night. And I didn't." A file appeared on her screen. A calendar export. Mark's private calendar. She scrolled. Meetings labeled sync. Locations off-site. Always late. Always after she'd been given access to something she shouldn't have touched. Then she saw it. Tomorrow. Another sync. Her name wasn't attached this time. Someone else's was. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was HR. "Please confirm you have not retained any company materials." She didn't respond. Instead, she opened the calendar file metadata. Created by Mark R. Modified by Mark R. Admin privileges. She finally understood the scale of it. Mark wasn't stealing randomly. He was delegating risk. Assigning sensitive access to subordinates. Letting the system log their names. Then triggering the breach himself. One person per cycle. Disposable. Her phone rang. Evan. They're moving fast, he said. Security's doing a sweep tonight. For what? She asked. To erase the trail. Silence hung between them. Do you have proof? He asked quietly. She looked at her screen, the calendar, the forwarding rule, the timestamps. Enough to scare him, she said. But not enough to stop him, Evan replied. She closed her laptop, heart pounding. Mark thought she was finished. But for the first time since the meeting, she wasn't afraid. She was focused. Because tomorrow morning, someone else was about to walk into that same conference room. And this time, she wasn't going to let them walk out alone. The conference room was full again. Different faces. Same tension. Mark stood near the screen, remote in hand, calm as ever. Another employee sat 2 chairs down from where she had once been, nervous, unaware. She watched from her car across the street, phone balanced on the dashboard. Evan's voice whispered through the earpiece. They're starting. On her screen, the live stream began. The CEO cleared his throat. We've identified irregular activity tied to internal access. Mark nodded. Unfortunately, yes. The slide changed. And then, it froze. A new window opened. Mark's calendar. Gasps rippled through the room. What is this? The CEO snapped. The slides kept moving, automatically now. Time stamps. Forwarding rules. Admin authorizations. All under one name. Mark's. Evan's voice trembled. You're live. The HR director stood. Who's controlling this? The final file appeared. An audio waveform. Mark's voice filled the room. You won't be blamed if you follow instructions. That's what you're here for. Silence. Then panic. The CEO turned slowly toward Mark. Explain. Mark's mouth opened. Closed. Security stepped forward. Outside, she exhaled for the first time in days. Minutes later, her phone rang. Unknown number. This is legal, a woman said. We owe you an apology. By evening, Mark was escorted out of the same building. No speech. No handshake. His badge dropped into the same locked box. She didn't go back to that company. She didn't need to. The investigation report cleared her name quietly, no announcement, no public apology. Just a line removed from her record. But something changed. Evan texted a week later. They're rewriting policies. Your name comes up a lot. She smiled faintly. Months later, she started consulting, helping companies find the cracks before someone like Mark used them. Sometimes she passed that building on her way home. Lights on. People working. Looking safe. She knew better now. They humiliated her in public. Erased her in private. And assumed silence meant defeat. But betrayal leaves patterns. And power always forgets one thing. The people you sacrifice are the ones who learn exactly how the system works.